title of the show is still the Storybook Series. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me mention before our guest joins us that we're having this throughout this week. So join us in the afternoons this week, 1 p.m., 3 p.m. as we discuss the Storybook Series. We're gonna have different people, amazing people that have shared their stories and get them to talk to you about the inspiration behind their books and how that has helped them so far and the victories they recorded since they've actually done their books. This journey to book writing, to sharing your stories is um, one that is for everybody because we all experience some level of victory over something one way or the other. If you look back at your life, you can see your journey, and there's part of your journey that is beneficial to somebody else. It's also not just beneficial to those that are existing now, but for the generation to come. It just gives them something to step on, wisdom to harness, so they don't have to start again from scratch. And putting it out there is a good way to one remember. It's a good way to also cause them to see the benefit of it, get the wisdom from it, and not make the kinds of mistakes that we've made over time. And there are different categories of genres that you can write a story in. It may be in your business, your success stories in for business. It may be your success stories for life generally, for raising children. Maybe your success story for marriage. Maybe your success story for your health. You know, it can be any of these areas. It doesn't necessarily have to be. So I'm bringing in your doesn't necessarily all areas of your life or specific areas where you recorded riches. That's where your story is, and that's why you need to share your story. So we're having Amy come up again. Hi, Amy. Welcome back. Sorry.
Hi. Yeah,
Okay, yes,
thank
it's
you.
great. It's great.
So it appears it was my network, correct?
Oh, okay. Hopefully, it doesn't buffer this time. Okay, so I was
Yeah.
asking, did you hear the
I've
last question
switched.
I asked you?
Yes, you were saying how do we get people to write their stories? How
To
do
first
people
of
to
all
get people
recognize
to?
recognize that this is a story and that okay, you need to write it, you need to share it.
Well, I would say yes. I was saying that there are two sides to it. It's one thing to go through a harrowing experience or to overcome something and want to share. It's another thing to want to share for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your reason for wanting to share is what would really determine how well you do with your book, right? And by how well you do with your book, I mean how well you're able to connect with the audience that needs the book. Now, what I mean by that is I've talked about this Lara, right? My
Mm-hmm.
client who wrote a book on how her marriage, but she wrote that book from a place of healing. At the time she wrote the book, she had healed from her experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't writing a book to bash her ex-husband. She wasn't writing a book to bash all the other people who had broken her heart in the past. Rather, she was writing a book to bring healing to others. And so in reading that book, it wasn't just, oh, I'm reading someone's story, or it wasn't just, oh my God, this woman has suffered, or oh my God, she was married, now she's divorced, oh, what a pity. That wasn't it at all. Readers came off because I've seen testimonials, I've seen reviews of her book. People, apart from my personal experience, right? People came off reading that book feeling like I am healed. I am not alone. And this has healed me. This
Mm-hmm.
has healed me again because it wasn't just a storybook. There were elements, there were things that were included in the book to make it a richer experience for the reader. So because she shared her story from a place of healing, where she had healed, she was able to heal others. But I've also had another person come going through who had similar experiences who wanted to write her book. And I said, no, please don't write your book yet because you have not healed. So anything you share now is going to be an indictment on all the people who have hurt you. So instead of making friends, instead of healing people, you're going to be bashing other people. And that may not be your real intention. It may not be your intention to bash people, but because you've not healed from that experience, you are not able to carry on the lessons, to carry forward the lessons. What you're carrying forward is the hurt and the pain. And your readers are going to get that hurt and pain. So it's important that when you're sharing your story, you're able to ask yourself, have I healed from this experience? That's if it's a story of hurt. Have I healed? Again, healing is progressive. So, healing is progressive. However, that you should have come to that point where you are able to share your story without relieving the pain of the experience. Because if you yourself begin to relieve the pain of that experience, it means that you've probably not healed. But I mean, that's just one aspect of a mini memoir or a memoir that you can write. You can also write from, something you've overcome. And I remember that some months ago, someone wanted to teach on how to get babies to sleep. She said she had perfected the art of getting her babies to sleep at the time when she needed them to sleep, right? And it was amazing how many people thought, oh my God, I need that, right? But what if she had kept quiet? What if she had said, oh, I'm sure every mother has got it figured out, So if no matter what it is that you have overcome, even if it's how to get out of bed in the morning, you have a story there, because there is, trust me, as long as you have struggled with it, somebody somewhere has struggled with it. The thing is that we tend to think that we are special. We tend to think we are the only ones, like, this experience is peculiar to me. I'm the only person who has experienced it. Or maybe the other person who experienced it is in Jamaica, and the person is far away, the person won't get my book. A lot of people around you are struggling with the same thing. So if you have overcome it, then you have a story to share with somebody. And so whether you decide to write a book, and your book could be any size. It could be 10 pages, it could be 500 pages, it could be 1,000 pages. You decide what you want to share with the world. So yes, you have a book if you have, something that you have overcome, and you believe and you know that there's somebody somewhere. Another danger or reason people do not, or one reason people do not write their books, is because they tend to think, is this a problem that 500,000 people need to solve?
Will I make enough money from selling?
Yes, and so because you've not been able to picture 500 needing this book, you feel you shouldn't share. But the most powerful stories are the stories that are written for one person. Because that one person connects with that story and says, you know what, this story. So how the matchmaker's marriage failed, right? She talked about her divorce experience, everything that led to the divorce, and how she healed, from the divorce and all of that. But guess what? The people who have gained healing from that book are not just divorcees. It's not, as much as she wrote for one person, it's able to touch different areas of life. So you read a book on, marriage, for instance, and then you get tips that help you with your personal finance, right? But going out to say, look, I want to solve a problem that 500,000 people have, you will be everywhere, because we have varied experiences, even though we have similar problems. So just ignore the 500,000 people and ask yourself, if I have gone through this, there's one more person who has gone through this. So I'm going to speak to that one person, and that one person may find your book and talk to another person who has a similar problem. And before you know it, you discover, oh, the problem wasn't that the people who have this problem weren't that small in size after all. There were quite many. It's just nobody was speaking up about it.
So what I hear you say basically is the power of one. Your why has to be the power of one. It has to be able to touch one person. After all, you're the one that got the healing. So if it can replicate the same kind of healing that you got with somebody else, then that means that at least your work is done.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
That's really powerful. I love what you say about the why. So this is now my question. How do you know that your why is good enough or is strong enough? So for example, some people may think that they've healed, but what they've done is to numb themselves of pain. Not necessarily that they
Mm.
heal. Do you understand? It's just that I have categorize this thing as it did not exist. So if I didn't go through the process of healing, right? I just categorize as it did not exist. But how do you then identify between I'm healed from this or I numbed myself? I just took anesthesia and then I just forget about it until when the thing wears off and I remember, oh, this happened. But then by then I've written my book. Do you understand? And I'm spreading
Okay.
my level of lack of a better word. I don't want to use the word in my mind. I'm spreading what is in my heart, to the world. So how do people identify the difference? Sorry, if that puts you on the spot
Well,
because
I
I'm
would
not
say
a psychological
I would
person.
say speak to a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to a professional. So if it's a case of healing, for instance, you may want to speak with a therapist, right? Who would it of course if a trained therapist who may be able to help you identify if you're healed
Mm-hmm.
from that experience. Also, don't just write a book because I mean I've given the example of someone who came to me and wanted to write her book, and I was able to say, look, you are not ready. If you write your book now, you're going to cause even more division. You will put yourself in so much trouble. You will put your readers in trouble. You will attract too much hate
Mm-hmm.
to yourself. Yes, I want your money. Come write a book.
Mm-hmm.
But will this book help you as
Mm-hmm.
an individual? And that's because I'm not just an editor or
Mm-hmm.
ghostwriter or publisher, right? I'm also so speak to a professional. For example, you're a book coach, yeah? So somebody can come to you and say, in just speaking with you, you may be able to ascertain that, look, you're not ready to write a book. How about you write on something else? Maybe you need to go see a therapist at this point instead of
Mm-hmm.
writing a book. Plus, if you're honest with yourself, a book is not an individual project. You don't just write a book for yourself, with yourself, by yourself, and put it out in the market. You need to get other people's opinions. That's where your editor comes in, because your editor is able to read with an objective mind to say, look, how will the market receive this?
Mm-hmm.
What does the market need and how will they receive this? Exactly, how will the market receive this? So just getting other people's perspectives, get other people to review the book and to share with you their thoughts and opinions. From the feedback you receive, you will know. And before you get to write a book, you've probably had conversations with one or two people. How did they feel when you gave them this advice? How did it work for them? So because talking about hurts, right? Maybe someone broke my heart, and the lesson I got from that experience is never trust any guy, right? But of course, I don't put it that way. I say, never. Maybe the guy is to spend my
Guys
money,
are not worthy of
right? Maybe,
trust. Men are
yeah, but no, but if we say that, of course everybody will be like, have you met all the
mm-hmm.
guys? So we don't say it. We don't say it like that. We say something like, so if it's a case of maybe money, maybe the guy stole my money, maybe I lent him money and he didn't pay back. I could say something like, oh, never give any guy money if he's not married to you,
Mm.
right? It sounds like wisdom,
Mm.
like, yeah,
Mm.
preach, 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 preach. But yeah, where is it coming from?
From.
Do
Mm-hmm.
So the principle could have been build trust slowly. Don't just trust
Mm.
someone wholeheartedly with
Exactly.
all of your resources. They've not proven that they are credible. But because I've not healed, I've not taken the relevant lessons, and somewhere in my subconscious it is, don't trust a guy. It's a guy. Don't trust him with
Generalization
money.
just come in play.
So I begin to advise people and say, until you are married, don't give a guy money. And it looks like a perfectly sensible principle, except that it's coming from a place of hurt
Mm-hmm.
and bitterness, not a place of wisdom per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. I remember candidly, I remember one time I wanted to write a book, and I was praying about writing the book. And one day I just said no. The no was so strong. And I didn't understand at the time, but I did get to understand that I had not healed from the experience I wanted to write. So there was no use for me to give that information out. So whoever was going to give the
Mm,
information, so there's a spirit in letters. Your
yes,
writing carries a spirit. So whoever's going to read that information would also carry the spirit of anger and frustration or whatever. I may be painting in nice words, but I'm not healed from it. So in other words, I wasn't going to be true to that story. So that's why it's good to have gone through your own process fully to be able to share your
yes,
journey with somebody else. So how do you
yes,
then identify that I've reached the end of my process? Because some people may be like, oh, okay, I'm ready to share my book. I'm ready to share my book. Or how do you identify that you've reached the end of that? And I do recognize that, okay, we are coaches and stuff, but it's also important to know that we're helping people um, come up with their stories, fine tune their stories, however, because we're trying to add value. We're not necessarily chasing the goal. We are chasing the value that would give to one person, like we talked about. So how do you get people
yes.
to see and recognize that, okay, you've come to this place where you are fully, because healing is progressive. I don't think that we heal and then we still have scars. Do you understand? Someone may
Exactly.
say, okay, I still feel a little pain from it. Am I ready to share that story? How do you know that you're at a place where it is now good, it is now comfortable, it is now best to share your story?
Yeah, so I mean, after you've spoken with the professional, after you've, spoken with a number of people, shared this your principles with them, get their feedback, of course. Um if their feedback is what would help you. But one reason you shouldn't share your story when you're not fully healed is that people will poke holes, especially now that we have the cancel culture. People are going to poke holes in your story. So you say you were raped. Of course, I believe you, right? And then you want to write a book about it, that's fine. But once you put it out there, you cannot control
Mm-hmm.
what people would say.
Mm-hmm.
So ask yourself, if they poke a hole in my story, how would I react?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be, so
Mm-hmm.
healing is not even just for your readers, it's also for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to deal with the repercussions of sharing your story. I remember when I published my book, they called me stupid. There was something I put there, and the reason I put it there was I thought there must be one person who may
What did you put there?
who may have okay. It was I don't want to share it here. I don't want to share it here. So, but I put it there because I thought there must be one person who is going through this and may need the information, because I thought, I mean, why the secrecy, right? But somebody read it after I'd put it out and said, why did you share that? And I said, yeah, because I mean, there must be somebody. And then she painted a scenario where I thought, it didn't occur to me that way. Like, apparently, this is how she saw it. Somebody else, years later, had created an impression of me
Based on the
based on what
story.
I shared. So the person asked me about it, and I said, "Oh, it's just this is what I did." I said, "Oh, that's what you did," and then you went to write. I beg and sit down, you know. So, but they had created. So apparently, as much as I thought I was helping one person, I was creating an impression of me that I didn't want people to go away with. Right. So in the updated version, I've had to remove that part of the book because I can't explain. I don't want to sit down and start explaining. It was supposed to be just an example, one sentence, but it just creates an entire.
I think that's the funny thing about story, and people like the controversial part of story. Like they want drama, they want and then people get scared. Like I have somebody that has been on my neck. She keeps saying, "Oh, I'll come and write, I'll come and write," but she's afraid to share because like what you said now, you removed it in the edited. She's afraid to share because she doesn't know how, you know, people will react to it and what it would. And it's that fear most times for people. So it's how do you
Yeah.
get to a place where you are not afraid anymore? How do you get to
Again, you have to see a therapist. You just have to see a therapist. You have to see a professional about it, because one thing is many of us wait until we think, oh, we are going insane before we see a licensed professional. So it's as simple as get help for yourself. You can't help people when you've not helped yourself.
true?
Get help for yourself. What I wrote about wasn't even about pain. It wasn't pain. So just supposed to be a simple example of, oh, I too, I make mistakes. But just the fact that, am I ready to start explaining
This to
what
people.
exactly it is, the level of the mistake, and all of that. So I'm like, there's no need. Let me not confuse you with that. I don't need that example to drive home my point. There could be other examples without having to use, you know, yeah, without having to put myself out there in a way in which I cannot control. But of course, if you're going to write on something controversial, you need to ask yourself if you healed enough to be able to bear um
The
the
consequences.
repercussions. When people come at you, are you going to break down? Are you going to begin to relive the experience? So if you've gone through a period of healing, personal healing, where you come off and the pain doesn't, if someone pokes the wound and it doesn't hurt, there's no wound to poke. There may be the scar, but there's no wound to poke. The wound is not fresh, and nobody can poke a hole in it. No one can make it bring you pain. Then you are ready to heal. Because no matter what people say, you'll be able to stand in your truth and say, look, this is my truth. And guess what? The people who are going, as much as there's a controversy from naysayers, other people are getting liberation from it. I
Exactly.
mean, we had a popular rape incident last year, and that trended. People were carrying placards, other people were saying it's a lie, and stuff like that. But in the midst of all of that, what happened is people who had held on to their stories and
Yes,
refused to
they're
talk, we saw them
sharing.
begin to come out,
Yeah.
begin to share their stories. It may not have ended the way people wanted it to end, but for some people, that was an opportunity for them to heal.
Release.
But imagine that the person sharing that story had not healed from it, and then once you come out and people start saying, oh, it's a lie, then, you begin to relieve that pain and trauma all over again. It doesn't help you. And thank you very much, Adanaya. You say they poke a hole in my story. How will I react? If you twitch, no, you're not ready. True, true.
I think just to add to that, I remember this wasn't a book case, but it was TD Jakes that was talking about him being criticized for things, because when you put yourself out there, there's opportunity for criticism actually. Him being criticized for stuff, and I think he got to that point where he felt that he was going to give up. Like it was like too much. They had written stuff about him in the newspapers and said stuff, and in your heart, you have good intentions. And I remember that they said maybe he had picked someone, and that just made up his mind I was going to give up. And they told him it was a lady that was looking for him. And so he said it delayed on him. Maybe he waited for like a long time, probably up to an hour, and then went down and he had forgotten she was there. And when he came down, she saw him and was like, oh, and she started crying and told him that she was in the hospital for a good number of days, and that it was his broadcast that she was always waiting for every day, and that was what pulled her throughout of the hospital, and that she came out, and then she said something to him that it is not for them, it is for us, and that totally healed him, because it was at that point
Yeah,
where,
I remember that story.
yeah, it was at that point where like this didn't make sense, and it wasn't easy, and that's the thing about sharing, many times, because you think that, oh, how people react to it. Different people have different ways of reacting to your story, but if just one person, like we talked about the power of one, if just one person actually got the value that they needed to be able to move on in life, then you've done your work. You've done your work
Mm-hmm.
really, like, and I think
Yes.
that is a perspective that people need to look at, because it's not going to be easy. It's not okay. I shared my story, so then I won't get criticism. I won't get hate. It's not hard for social media. You can just block some people. You know,
As long as you're in this world, you are going to get hate for everything you
yeah.
do.
For smiling,
Everything. You
smile
help
too
the
well.
poor, oh, it's really for the camera.
You know,
You don't help the poor, oh, it's such a stingy fellow. So,
so it's actually fine. And it's okay. It's okay even if you tweet. Just remember, just remind yourself why you're doing this and keep moving. Because I just think
so
that it gets to a point where you will have to realize that they're small potatoes. They are irrelevant issues, and it's not adding to the grand scheme of things. Having a bigger understanding of the value you're creating as against what somebody else is criticizing you for is nothing.
mhm,
Is nothing.
yeah. So from what you've said, I think we can say weigh it on a scale,
Mm-hmm.
right? Weigh it on a scale. Your desire to help somebody
Mm.
with your story and your fear of being criticized,
Mm-hmm.
which is heavier,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I remember I did this exercise with someone 2 weeks ago. She has been holding on to her story, and she has just been holding on to her story. It's been, with her own experiences and all of that. She wants to write, but it's like she couldn't find motivation to write. And when she shared with me, I told her, okay, so let's do this exercise. Okay, well, of course, because I'm a um trained therapist and coach, right? I was able to draw from that experience. And I said, this is your fear of, how am I going to write and all of that? What will people say? I can't reach deep down. I can't remember the exact details now. And then there's this other, on your right, there's this other desire to reach out to people, to help people. So we did a simple exercise where she weighed both of them. So it's a psychological exercise. She weighed both of them, and then she was able to say no, that my desire to share my story
It's more.
weighs heavier. It weighs heavier than this other fear. So I
Yeah.
had to, lead her through the process of releasing that fear,
Yeah.
blessing the fear, thanking the fear because it served its purpose.
Yeah.
But at this point, she needs to let it go. So she was in
Yeah.
my, and she was my storytelling community, and she thought, oh God, the last exercise she did, I had to comment. I said, look, you wrote this from your heart, and it was really good. So you have to be able to ask yourself which way is heavier, which is heavier for me,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you're going to live with it. So whether people praise you, whether they hate you, as
Yeah.
long as you're coming from a place of, you have healed from your experience, you're coming from a place of goodwill, then focus on people for whom your message is written, and leave naysayers. There will
Yeah.
always be naysayers. After a
Yeah.
while, they will turn around.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is how interesting story can be, that even those that praise you today can be the ones throwing stones at you tomorrow. So even for whomever it is that is even praising you, you have to understand that tomorrow they could be throwing stones at you, and it's
Yeah,
okay. It's fine. That's why
yeah,
your why has
yeah,
to outweigh your fears, also outweigh your concerns. You're accountable for your life, and your experiences bring people liberation, they bring people victory. So why not embrace it? So I think that's like the gist of our conversation. Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you for the time.
thank you, Ibuku. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you. And if you mention to everybody, so part of why we're having this conversation is I'm running a Write Your First Book course. It's going to be an online class, and it's starting on June 14th. All the information is in my bio at Ibukutumbi. You can click on it and find out how you can plug into it. If you don't want to do the 1 week class, there's an online course you can take advantage of. Or if you want to go to the academy, I'll help you through writing your story in 30 days, and we'll get this done together. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Amy, for the time. I do appreciate
Thank
giving
you.
us time today. And please check out Ini at Ini Writes. Please follow her and also sign up for different programs that she's doing. She does amazingly well trying to help people tell their story. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Bukun. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to all our viewers. Thank you, Adanaya, for
Thank
your
you. This is not
contributions.
for the faint-hearted. That's really funny. Thank you so much, Adanaya. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Tomorrow, we're having another session, and I'll be bringing a guest who has written a story before and sharing it with us. He's a very brave person, and I do hope I'll put it post that on my page. Please join in tomorrow by 1 p.m. for this session. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Amy. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.